Hello. Welcome back to a new ranking. We are already at the end of June. We have entered July. Half of the year is gone. Holy crap. Today's video is about ranking what I saw in June. So I have I have 6 movies to talk about in total. So let's get to it. Coming in at number 6, it is Megan 2.0. I saw the first Megan just before so that I could prepare because I had not seen it when it exploded on the scene back in the day, and it's not for me. I'm not surprised. I saw the first movie and I think it took me a while to even watch that first movie because I saw the trailer back in the day and just wasn't really feeling it. But I got a screening invite for the second one and I was like, well, I guess this is the opportunity for me to go ahead and see the first so that I could see the second. Watched it. It's not my thing. It is just coming off a little bit too tame and kiddish for me, which sounds weird because it is about a killer doll. And I've seen this said by other people online, but I agree. I think I myself would be more interested if it was just a rated R type of universe. I am also a woman who has no children, so I can't watch this through the eyes of my non-existent children and appreciate it for what it is. And, I understand those are certain experiences of other people, but it's not mine. And I just can't help what I like and what I dislike. And you know what? It's fine. It has its fans, I guess, even though I don't think Megan 2.0 even did well at the box office. So they're taking the L on that one. Coming in at number 5 is Jurassic World Rebirth. This was pretty much a waste of my time. And I say that not because I think the movie is horrible. I don't think it is offensively bad. It's just there. It's just meh. And to me, that is why I say I wasted my time. I would always rather spend my time really enjoying something. I want to enjoy watching something when I'm choosing to sit down and take the time to check something out. And Jurassic World Rebirth is kind of crazy because you have such a talented cast, but they're not really given that much to do. They're given a little bit of backstory and characterization, but then it really leads to nowhere. And then the movie is just full of dumb things happening. I don't want to go into it because I don't want to spoil it for you in case you haven't seen it yet. But when you watch it, you will know what I'm talking about. And like I said in my review, if you are just in it for some big, dumb fun, then you're probably going to like it. For me, at the end of my experience with it, it just made me crave a true adventure film. Back in the day when we got movies like the old Pirates of the Caribbean and The Mummy, I'm craving for that. I want another one of those true adventure films, and Jurassic World Rebirth was not it. Coming in at number 4, we have 28 Years Later. It is down this low because I was just truly very disappointed. Now, I should say, I did not grow up watching the 28 films. I watched 28 Days Later for the very first time just before I saw 28 Years. And I know people love it. It has its cult following, but I could barely get through it because of just how it looks. And, people are like, well, that makes it look like real and gritty. It's like someone that's really going through the apocalypse. And I'm like, I get all that. But as a viewer of 2025 watching that, I could not get through it. I got through it. I finished it, but I could barely remember it because it was hard for me to engage in the story. So, 28 Years Later, though, holy crap. The people in marketing got me. They got this girl right here who didn't watch previous films before to be highly interested because you cut such a dope trailer. The movie, though, with my experience, wasn't into it. And I'm sad to say that because I wanted to like this and I'm disappointed. And I have seen that it has been quite divisive. So I am not alone in that. I've seen a lot of people say this is one of the best movies this year. This is their favorite movie this year. This is one of the best of the decade. What? And then I've seen people who are in my camp who are just really not feeling this and who are very disappointed. And what I can say for myself is that Danny Boyle has a very specific visual style. And I can appreciate that, which at the end of the day, I would rather rewatch that than Megan 2.0 and Jurassic Rebirth because it at least has an interesting style. But to me, it was a little bit too stylish. While watching it, I swear to you, every other frame, there is a different format, there's a different style to it. And that just made me feel like I was getting whiplash. You can say, well, it's filmed that way because it's very like erratic, how the kid is feeling in the movie and how the world is very like chaotic and out of control. And I understand all that. I get it. But I think for me in this experience, I would have rather we stick to one type of visual style so that I could feel just a bit more engaged in the story. And let's talk about the editing really quick. This has like mixed media, where throughout the film we're showing like little glimpses of old footage from older films or different times in history. And this entire time I kept thinking, okay, so are the filmmakers trying to show us like the evolution of violence or something? I still don't really know. I'm not super clear on that. I have seen some comments online saying that it is pertaining to some Brexit stuff and other things in history. I'm not a history buff, clearly. And then there is a tonal change at the very end of the movie that everyone's talking about, calling it the Power Rangers scene. And I did also call that out in my review, because how can you not talk about the ending of that movie? 28 years later has an ending that doesn't match the rest of the movie. And that could be quite purposeful, but it just kind of, I was already not enjoying most of my experience with it. And then that just put like the nail in the coffin at the end when you're just bringing out a bunch of blonde wig Power Ranger ninja people. And I'm sad because I feel like I disliked it enough to not be interested in seeing the second one. I say that, but then watch them cut another dope trailer, I'm going to be a sucker again. Coming in at number 3 is Dangerous Animals. Dangerous Animals is very interesting to me because this is a movie that when I first watched the trailer, I was like, I'm sorry, a serial killer who kills his victims by feeding them to sharks. They're trying to put a new twist. Like, this looks absolutely ridiculous. How does any actor say yes to this? But then I saw actual positive reviews popping up for this, and I was very, very shocked. So, of course, that made me very curious, and I had to go to the theater and watch this. And I kept seeing this being labeled a B movie, and it is, but it surprised me because I felt like the acting was pretty good in this. I think my favorite for me was the main female character. Everyone's praising Jai Courtney for his part in this, but I think he came off just a little bit too zany for my taste. I could have used some more background information on his character to explain his utter demented fascination with sharks so that it could compute in my brain a little bit easier as to why he likes to do these deranged things. Not everyone needs that. I get it. We all have different tastes and preferences. But for me to like really enjoy his character, I think I would have needed that. But anyways, I really liked the main female character. She was savvy. She was damaged. She was interesting. They made her an interesting character. And she was a great final girl. The best final girls are the girls who are out here trying to fight to survive, and they're kicking ass in whatever ways that looks like. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're literally, doing karate moves or anything, but they're just finding things that they can use as weapons so that they can get out of the situation that they're in. So I love a good survivor movie. I do think the movie suffers a little bit from feeling repetitive because it is essentially these two characters on this setting, on this little rinky-dinky boat. So she has to, of course, go through several different types of obstacles where she's trying to get away, then he gets her back. She's trying to get away and he gets her back. It happens quite a few times, so it does get repetitive. And it does have its interesting, corny moments. In the movie, sometimes I think the tone is a little bit iffy where we're trying to take this seriously, but then like it's like a cheesy B-movie fest. So it has its flaws, but at the end of the day, again, I would rather rewatch that than Megan 2.0. Number 2 kind of is shocking for me, and maybe for you too if you've seen my Materialist review, because that is my number 2 movie of June. Listen, I have had time to reflect. And if you haven't seen my review, by the way, I forgot to mention that I have done reviews for all of these films. All of these movies have reviews, full reviews on my channel. So if you wanted more in-depth thoughts on it and my insights, please go look at my reviews. But in my Materialist review, I praise the movies. I praised the movie on certain things that I really liked about it. And then at the end, in my spoiler section, I was going in and I probably seemed a little harsh. Okay. But again, I'm not the only one who feels this way. This movie has also caused a lot of discourse, just like 28 years later. I will say that I think a lot of the same things that I said in my original review, but upon reflection, I will also add this. I could have gotten behind the way the movie ends with who she chooses had that been a better told love story. Okay? And I don't want to go into spoilers because in case you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But it has a particular romance trope in it, which is, in my opinion, a very hard trope to pull off a lot of the times because it just doesn't always leave the viewer as satisfied as something that feels a bit more fully fleshed, where we get to see the beginning, middle, and end of a relationship. And so when she chooses who she chooses, I just feel not very moved by that choice, not only because I think she should have done this instead, but now as I reflect, it's because with the story that you're trying to tell me, Celine Song, I didn't really buy into the love story. And it's not just because of the money part, okay? And I will leave it at that because I think you should watch it. I also appreciate the various conversations that are happening about this. I appreciate this movie for making me talk about it so many times after watching it, so I will give it that. And I also really loved how it was shot. Celine uses very long takes in the movie because people are having conversations and we just kind of get to live in the moment, and it feels just like very natural. And I like that about it. I also really loved the score. So while I didn't love the movie, I still listened to the score several times after, because I am always a girl that if I notice the music in the movie, even if a movie that I don't necessarily love, but I think the score is great, I'll go listen to it. So I still supported it in that way. And I really enjoyed like the first 20 to 30 or 40 minutes of it, because it's kind of like a takedown of what modern dating has turned into. So it's like a good satire film for the first like half hour, and then it kind of gets a little bit muddled and clunky in the writing, in my opinion. But you know, for now, that's where I will leave it. I'm sure I'll have more conversations in the future about The Materialists, but right now it's sitting at number 2 in my ranking video. And finally, we are at number 1. That is How to Train Your Dragon, the live action remake. I gave this movie a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Okay. And I've seen other people really like it, and I think it's doing really well at the box office as well. We're already getting the sequel next year. You guys, this has to be my number 1, not only because it is my highest rated film of June. It is a movie that I had cried multiple times. And it's funny because I have seen the original How to Train Your Dragon, but it's been so many years since I've seen it that if you were to watch me watch this new movie in the theaters, you could have sworn it was my first time watching it. So I think that is the difference with people who are loving this and not loving this. People are just calling it like a shot-for-shot remake, a cash grab, that this was pointless. And you know what? That all may be very true, that it's a cash grab, that it's shot for shot, but it didn't make it any less impactful. The stars of this movie are Hiccup and Toothless. Their bond, their relationship, for me, is the star of this, and it still had me so invested in this. And I don't have the original film etched in my brain. I don't know it beat for beat. I just don't. And I think that's what really helped me. So if you haven't seen the live action remake yet, and you have seen the original, don't rewatch it just before you watch the live action remake, because I think it's going to enhance how much you like it. And if you haven't seen the animated original, I would say watch a live action remake first and then go back to the animated, because I think that way you'll be able to give yourself a chance to like it. I didn't think it was perfect. I remember saying in my review that some of the costumes feel like they're from like Party City, and a lot of the humor from the crew, the friends, do not land pretty much. And I also feel like there should be a lot more burned victims, because it's like live action, you fight dragons all these years, why are you not more burned? But apart from those criticisms, I loved this. I love this story. It is a beautiful story about feeling like an outsider, like you don't fit in. Where is my path? Like my dad thinks I should do this, but I want to do that. And it hits all of those emotional beats. And I think it was brilliant to make sure that you leave Toothless looking cartoonish. I think that was the key here for me. Because when you think about the live action but really CGI Lion King remake that came out a few years ago, it did really well financially, but that movie is so bad because it's all photorealism, it's all CGI, it's all animals, so you don't really feel much of the emotions coming out of them. And there's traumatic things that happen in Lion King, like the whole murder of a son's father. Like the cub is barely even emoting because they try to make him look too real, so that didn't work. So How to Train Your Dragon, they kept the dragons looking cartoonish. And so that's why when Toothless is feeling scared, I feel scared. When Toothless is feeling protective, I understand him. When Toothless is feeling, all sorts of these emotions, I can get emotional now talking about it. When he's feeling all of these things, you see it in that dragon's eyes. And I just thought that was the move. That was the brilliant move, is to keep it cartoonish looking. I cannot wait for that sequel. Am I part of the problem of these becoming cash grabs and they're going to keep on coming? Maybe I am, because sometimes these live action remakes are actually pretty good. And you know what? DreamWorks, I think this is the first time that they're making their live action entry, and I think they did a damn good job. And I can't imagine that sequel not being just as good or even better. So that is it for my June ranking. Thank you guys so much for checking out my video. Please let me know what you watched in June and how you ranked them. If you're enjoying my content, please hit subscribe, hit the like button, and leave me a comment because that really helps me out, especially as a smaller creator. And I'll catch you guys next time.